You ranked the AFC North quarterbacks. Let's talk a little bit about that. Baker checks in at number 2.
Yeah, I think obviously Baker has an immense amount of talent. There's no doubt about that. And I think people get a little confused why he wouldn't be first overall necessarily. But I think there's a part of this whole thing that you got to look at Ben-Roethlisberger's output again, over 5,000 yards, 34 touchdowns. He is still the AFC North king, and 1 year doesn't change that by any stretch of the imagination. Mayfield may have graded out better on Pro Football Focus, but Roethlisberger has a prolonged period of 15 years worth of excellent play on tape. So he had another good year. They do lose Antonio Brown. I think that will play a part in things, but I think it would be premature, especially going into just Mayfield's second year, to tab him as sort of the best quarterback in the division this quickly. He's there. He's on track. He's not far off, but he needs to put another good year or two on tape to take over the reins from Ben.
One thing that Baker does grade out extremely high with is his accuracy out of the pocket. And take me through that and what that means to an offense and how that plays into what the Browns want to do.
Well, it's great for any coach because you're going to call a play, and not every play in the NFL is going to go perfectly. I think it's important for everybody who watches the game to understand that, yeah, there's a scheme, there's a thing that the offenses want to do every single play, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to go as planned, especially when you're dealing with 11 fantastic athletes on the other side of the football trying to disrupt things you're doing. So Mayfield's ability to get outside the pocket, help his offensive line by escaping pressure. But not only that, he's not getting outside the pocket to run. He's getting outside the pocket to throw, and he's doing it with a high amount of accuracy and velocity on the football, and not just to his right. Like, people get this misconception that rolling out to the right is the only side quarterbacks are going to be accurate on. That's not the case. Mayfield has plenty of reps on tape where he's rolling to his left out of the pocket and still puts an accurate football in the place of a receiver to allow them to catch and run and get yards after catch. So it's a really important skill. The NFL is sort of a chaotic league, right? They say the best in the NFL can survive in chaos. And Mayfield's one of those guys who, when things get chaotic around him and break down, which happens quite often, he can throw from weird platforms within the pocket, and he can get out of the pocket, find success with his legs, extending plays to throw the football, which is very important.
The other thing that comes to mind with that is when you put more weapons around him, like a Jarvis Landry, like an Odell Beckham, like a Kareem Hunt, that's just going to enable this offense to flourish as well.
Yeah, so pretty much whoever you leave open on any given play or leave a one-on-one matchup on any given play. And this is what Mahomes was able to do with Kansas City last year, because Patrick Mahomes was the only quarterback in the entire NFL with a better outside of the pocket passer rating than Baker Mayfield, or grade, I should say, from Pro Football Focus. Is, whenever you get out of the pocket, then you put those dynamic athletes out in even more space, which is tougher to guard because you don't know from a defensive standpoint which way those guys are going to turn. Are they going to turn upfield? Are they going to come back to the football? Are they going to work laterally? You just don't know, and it gets pretty chaotic. And if you have a quarterback who can get out of the pocket and find those guys all the time, that makes things just really ridiculously hard for defense. And defensive coordinators look to adjust rush lanes, adjust the tempo or the depth of the rush. And if you're doing that as a defensive coordinator, that means you're going to give a quarterback more time in the pocket, which Mayfield's adequate enough. I would say adequate is not the right word. He's good enough from inside the pocket that he can rip you apart from there too, and he proved that just last year. So he's going to be a challenge. People talk about how defensive coordinators are going to adjust for him and all these things are going to throw at him to make him sort of blink. Well, I think that defensive coordinators are going to have to do their share of blinking too, because this kid's pretty good and he's good at both phases of throwing, whether on the run or sitting in the pocket.